The building behind me is the New York Stock Exchange, which, unlike a lot of the other financial institutions in New York and in the US, was actually not founded by Hamilton. But in fact, Hamilton was instrumental in the founding of the first stock exchange, which was formed by the Buttonwood Agreement, which was an agreement signed in 1792 outside of the Merchants Coffee House. And the Buttonwood Agreement was an agreement among some merchants in New York to trade federal bonds only with each other at a fixed rate of interest. So this was really the beginnings of a stock exchange in New York. And the bonds that they were trading came out of the 1790 agreement, the federal assumption of state debts that was really crucial to Hamilton's financial plan. It also was central to New York ceasing to be the capital of the United States. This was the Compromise of 1790 that Hamilton struck with his rival Jefferson and Madison in order to get them behind this central component of his financial plan, which was that the federal government would assume the debts that the states had incurred during the American Revolution. And Hamilton thought that this was very important in terms of creating a strong federal government that could collect taxes in order to fund this debt so that the states wouldn't have that power or really even that need. And we really can't overstate the importance of this component to Hamilton's entire financial plan, to consider a very strong central government that would really foster a commercial nation. And it was so important to him that he was willing to do whatever it took in order to get the Jeffersonians behind him and behind this financial plan. And that deal took place kind of behind closed doors over a dinner at Jefferson's house on Maiden Lane, and this was the room where it happened in the musical. And Hamilton made an agreement with them, and the Compromise of 1790 was that Hamilton would agree to get his side behind moving the federal capital to the south, which was very important to the Virginians, Madison and Jefferson, if they would get behind and get their people behind federal assumption of the state debt. And so that agreement was struck, and from that point, they moved the capital out of New York. Now, New York ceased to be the political capital of the United States, but it continued to be, and Hamilton recognized that this would be the case, it continued to be the financial capital of the United States, and in many ways the cultural capital as well. And the foundation of this strong commercial federal government was really laid by Hamilton's commercial plans, including the Bank of New York, including the Bank of the United States, and including the federal assumption of the state's debts. Now, one of the ways that Hamilton planned to have this debt paid off was through a bond issue. So he floated this bond issue where they would sell off little pieces of the debt, which is a bond, to the American people. They would buy up the bonds, and that would fund the debt. And in order to do that, they started to make these agreements that they would trade only with each other. And that was the Buttonwood Agreement, which is intimately tied to the Compromise of 1790, to Hamilton's financial plan, and eventually to the creation of the New York Stock Exchange.